Thanks for joining me for a quick discussion of the Cautious Corner. This is how UDL helps us think differently about our students' executive function. We're not in a great place right now with students' executive function, which is fine. Everything's just information. But we're going to spend a few minutes talking about a way to reevaluate how we see it through the UDL lens. I'm Suzanne Crosdale. I've been a classroom teacher and an instructional coach. I work in systems change for schools that are aiming to shoot higher with their students, and I'm sharing the work of a much larger team that donates their time and energy free of charge to their peers. So what's the UDL guidelines? What's the UDL framework for teaching and learning? So the guidelines are a pictorial representation of the UDL framework, which is a lens for how we see teaching and learning. You'll see that they represent the three brain networks. On the left, you'll see the recognition network. In the middle, the strategic network. And on the right, the affective network. So the UDL guidelines give us some actionable activities that we can use to reduce barriers to student learning and increase learner expertise. What we care about today is not the basics of neuroscience that have led to the UDL guidelines, but we want to lift up a specific concept. That specific concept is the Cautious Corner, and it's one element of the UDL Guidelines 2.0. The Cautious Corner is all about the strategic and affective brain networks. So our strategic brain network is where we figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And that's the one you see on the left-hand side of your screen right now. But on the right-hand side, you see the affective network, which is the why do I even care about this network? As you'll see, we've created a stair step. It's in red, and it cordons off guidelines 6, 8, and 9. So if you look above it, you'll see guideline 5.3, checkpoint 5.3. Build fluencies with graduated levels of support for practice and performance. So we call that gradual release of responsibility. We know it has its foundations in explicit instruction. And so we know that probably the most important things for our preteens and teens right now is making sure that we have explicitly instructed in what we want. Strategy instruction, I do, we do, you do, gradual release of responsibility. It's the core of our instruction for students, and it's what they need to support their executive function, which you'll see if you travel across that bright red line. So if we don't successfully use gradual release of responsibility to make sure that students know how to do the things we expect them to do, we've entered into the challenging area of the Cautious Corner. So first of all, the Cautious Corner is named the Cautious Corner because we have to be cautious trying to say that a middle schooler could do this at all. A ninth grader could do this at all. So a lot of times we say, hey, I've taught it. I used my gradual release of responsibility. We've done I do, we do, you do. My students should be able to do this now. Well, not so fast, because here's where we're at with the Cautious Corner. As we get older, as our neurons connect, as we prune the ones we don't need anymore, we actually have to take the time to make certain that students are fluent in selecting their strategies, fluent in regaining their desire to work when they don't want to anymore. And we often call this adulting. And so I want everyone to think right now about the Cautious Corner and themselves. Do you or does someone in your family have a hard time caring enough to get off the couch at night to wash the dishes? Do we have moments on the weekend that we say to ourselves, I don't really want to get this thing done. I don't really want to start this task. Well, that's the Cautious Corner. So we need to be careful saying that our 12 and 14 and 15-year-olds are able to do something just because we used I do, we do, you do. What you see in the Cautious Corner is the executive function challenges.